Sunday school is Michelle. Next week in worship is Mary and Moses. Wednesday night at 7 is Bible study and prayer meeting. Ushers for July is Kim and Nick. And send announcements and songs to April. She likes to have them Thursday or Friday or early enough so she can get them in the bulletin. Events happening this summer, VBS, the 7th to the 15th. I believe SYC is next weekend, isn't it? Starting? Right? Paul? Yes. SYC coming up right away. And is there any other announcements you'd like to make or need to make? If there's no others, we'll ask the band to lead us in singing.
all pray for a bit more rain and crops.
He's more at that point.
Dick and Shirley have made it onto their cruise. Please continue to pray for them and their having a pleasant time so far. Thank you for prayers for my family. They made it home safely. And just also thankful for any ambulances here. Thankful for it and also that it can see because it's very nice to see them.
I guess prayer for my niece and my nephew's wife and our nephew's girlfriend and maybe wife to be. They're all getting baptized today down in Peace by Dunvegan, and just pray that they will get encouragement and guidance that they need in their new journey.
We're fortunate to have cousin and her family here. Cousin Josh.
All right, let's pray. Thank you, Father. Sunday, a day to rest from work for the week. And it's good for a change. We're hard all week. I lift up Dick and Shirley on their cruise. Your Jeremiah cruise. I ask that you guide them and lead them. Bless the people they meet. And people speaking to them. Thank you that Colin and Anna made it home, and thank you that we're for ambulance here. Pam's cousin lost his son, and we pray for comfort and family, and your presence would be felt, Father. Lift up those that are getting baptized down in Peace today, and thank you for their verse that references condemnation. So I thought, that'll probably be something to work with there. So that's my topic. I wonder what the word means to you, condemnation, to feel condemned, or to condemn someone or something. I expect we've experienced condemnation in many different instances. We've likely witnessed condemnation, see someone condemned that is totally separate from us. Maybe like an execution. That might come up in mind and say, what is condemnation? You might think, well, someone could be condemned to death. I think of like the horrible medieval ways that they killed people. Back then, William Wallace was condemned to torture and then to death. The woman that they had caught in adultery, she was condemned to stoning. And so we witnessed that story, so to speak, because we're not feeling condemned, and we're not the one condemning. We're simply an observer watching the condemnation take place. We might witness a court scene, or you might watch some kind of crime drama, and the judge or the jury will issue a verdict, and that verdict will condemn a person. And I'm not sure if the definition of condemnation is exactly what we would use it as. For me, when I think of condemnation, I think of a finality, like a no return from. Versus the sentencing, I would use that as a lighter term. So if you're going to be condemned to death, then I would use condemned. But if you're sentenced to maybe community service or something like that, I wouldn't use the word condemned. I wouldn't say you are condemned to community service. I would feel kind of out of place. But there is something interesting about witnessing condemnation. Back in the days of hangings, people would come out and watch, like it was like a spectacle. What time's the hanging going to be? I'll see you there. And same with like the guillotine in the French Revolution. Like it was an event to witness. People would watch. And I don't know about your parents, but my kids, I have to chase the bystanders out of the room before I exert punishment on the guilty party. They would all very much like to stay and watch, particularly if there was one that was wrong. They would very much like to witness the punishment that is supposed to pay for the crime that they have endured. And so in a sense it validates their pain that they've been inflicted. I want to see this person suffer for what they've done to me. And so I don't know if it's necessarily an inappropriate thing to witness a condemnation, so to speak, or to be around when it happens. Now, there's also very distinct reactions to seeing someone be condemned. I would sometimes watch these horrible like slave movies, like 12 Years a Slave, or some of those kind of shows that are just awful. Like I have nightmares. I don't approve. I don't recommend them at all. But you'll see like where they would hang the black people for almost no reason, and I have like a strong negative reaction. That's a really repulsive thing, and I'm overcome with this sense of wrongdoing because I don't approve of the baseline that they're operating from in which to exact the condemnation. They say this slave shouldn't be out running around without his paper that says he can be off his master's farm, therefore he's a runaway, therefore we will hang him right here. Get the rope, there's a tree. And I don't agree with that kind of premise. However, in the case of my kids, if they are in favor of the law that's being enacted, which results in someone being punished, that they ought to be punished, then there's this really affirming sense, like, yes, we will agree, we will watch this condemnation happen. And there's almost kind of I feel kind of a sense of satisfaction or self-congratulation, like, yes, justice has been served, this is a great day, the guilty party is being punished. And so, yeah, that's, we can witness condemnation separate from our own personal experience. We have nothing to do with any of it. We're just there seeing it happen. We can also feel condemnation. So we might be wrong or not wrong, but we can perceive people condemning us in whichever way that you might say that. You've wronged someone, and they disapprove. They disapprove of what choice you've made, and not only do they convey this sense of you've made a bad choice, but what comes off is you are a bad person. And it's not the same thing. We try not to say to our kids, you're a bad boy, or you're a bad dog. If you're talking to a dog, you just say that was a bad choice. You don't want to come off as condemning and say you are a bad person. But it doesn't matter, because sometimes we will feel that. We will be in the wrong, and the person that's confronting us, maybe not of their own intention, but we will receive it as like, this person has written me off, and they never want to speak to me again. They think I'm a terrible person, and they hope that I disappear from the earth. Different. I try not to talk to the kids all the time, if they're good object material. So some of my kids are very soft-hearted, and so I have to be careful that when I express disapproval, that it goes straight to condemnation. They just wilt in front of me, like I have stomped on their very soul, and they're like, I'm sorry, and they never want to talk and go hide because they feel so condemned. And I know that, well, I am assuming that I'm not the only person that has felt this way. It is a very sickening thing to feel condemned by a person, to be wrote off with a sense of finality, that there is no way that you can ever make this right. The harm that you did is irreplaceable, and don't tell me you're sorry. I don't want to hear it. You are effectively dead to me. Hopeless, no future. The verdict is cast, and you are condemned. And the last one I'm going to go to, so that's feeling condemned. We witness condemnation. We might feel condemnation. We will also condemn people. And I don't think that we condemn people as often as they might feel condemned by us. Now, maybe that's not true. At least for me personally, I'm sure I've come across as condemning to someone and made them feel like I have condemned them. I'm no longer interested in their life. They are done to me. But so mostly I don't think we do. We would never punish a child and hope that they feel condemned. Hope that they think that we don't love them anymore and we don't want to be invested in their life. But maybe that's not true. So me personally, I don't spend very much time condemning people in my own heart. I'm not one to write people off with finality. But we would certainly disapprove of what people do or say. Probably hundreds of times this week, I bet all of us have disapproved of something or someone or some situation. But I doubt we condemn people very much. But I bet we all have done it. So it's one thing to say we rarely condemn. I bet you all of us have condemned people. And probably not to death, because we don't have that kind of authority or power over their life. But it is an easy thing to maybe someone has hurt one of our children. Maybe they've hurt their feelings or said something wrong and hurt our kids. Something very precious to me. We maybe would be inclined to condemn that person. And that might simply mean I sentence you to be excommunicated from my life. I will never speak to you. I will never think a positive thought about you ever again. That we might be tempted to condemn people in that way. Or just to judge them with that kind of finality. It's like, don't even talk to me. I'm not interested in your apology. You've hurt me so deeply that goodbye, and go away. But I doubt that's common. So there's a little thoughts on condemnation. That's not what we'll talk about. The verse that came to my mind was when our hearts condemn us. And that's all my memory could pull up, was when our hearts condemn us. And so I'm not talking about witnessing condemnation, or feeling condemned by someone else, or condemning someone else, but when our own hearts condemn us. What are we to do with that? It is a very debilitating thing to feel condemned by your own heart. And maybe I'm the only one here that's ever felt that. And good for you if you haven't. But I've certainly experienced that feeling. And it's a very debilitating thing. It goes beyond just simply, that was a mistake, or I wish I hadn't done that, to I am hopeless, I can never be brought back to any kind of restitution, and it results in this kind of emptiness. I'm sure we've all condemned ourselves to certain things, even today. It's not a very far stretch to go from giving up on something to say, oh, I'll never be, and then you could fill in the blank of what that might be. I made up some random examples. I'll never be good at sports. I'll never be tall. I'll never be beautiful. I'll never be smart. I'll never be well liked. I'll never be good at guitar. I'll never be rich. Or you could go like character traits, like what God would actually, we know God wants us to do. I'll never be patient. Well, I just have a bad temper. I'll never be patient. I'll never be encouraging. I'll never be slow in anger. I'll never be slow to speak. I'll never have good family relationships, or I'll never have a good marriage. And we condemn ourselves. It's like this pronouncement that we make, and we tell ourselves this. It's just the way it is. It's just the way I am. There's no hope for it. I've just got to accept my fate in life, and we condemn ourselves. And this is the part that's kind of hard for me. I waver from one side of this issue to the other. One side is you can see people that give up, and they condemn themselves to. It's hard to just pick an example that might actually make someone think I'm talking about them, but whatever. I won't think of it. So you condemn yourself to some failing, that whatever that is in your own heart, and then you don't even try to change it. You just accept your fate, and this is what it is, and that's how it's going to be forever. So that's one way you can deal with condemnation. Is just accept it and carry on with life, sadly in your terrible state, but not caring, like almost content in your failure, if you can imagine. The other way is to hold yourself in this shame, like a rain clouds following you around everywhere you go. And so whatever you do, this condemnation is raining on you throughout your days. I don't know if any of you have seen Les Miserables, the French opera? Play? Whatever. They made a movie of it. And there's this terrible song that I love to sing. There's these hundreds of men at the opening scene. There's hundreds of men, they're holding these huge ropes like this. And it's as if they're having this giant game of tug-of-war. Like they're all lined up on these ropes, and they're pulling, but they're not pulling against each other, they're all pulling the same direction. You can see they're all pulling something. And as the camera pans around, you can see they're pulling a ship. It's like a giant ship, a literal ship, and these men are pulling this ship up into this dry dock. It's set 1700 something, so there's no electric motors yet. So these men are providing the power to winch this ship up into this dry dock, and it's just miserable. They're standing in water up to here, and it's just pouring water all over them. And as they're pulling on this ship into the dry dock, they sing, look down, you'll always be a slave. Look down, you're standing in your grave. This is the opening scene of this movie. So if you want to be thoroughly depressed, you can go and watch Les Miserables, which is The Miserables in French. So these guys are condemned, literally, to slavery. And they even have owned it so much, they've got a song to sing about how condemned they are. Another verse, guys, like, I've done no wrong, sweet Jesus, hear my prayer. And then the other side of the choir answer back, sweet Jesus doesn't care. It's like the thoroughly condemned state of mind that these guys are in. So, check it out. So, I'm sure we would disagree with the premise that sweet Jesus doesn't care whether you're in our condemned state like these guys were feeling. So it's tempting to say, okay, reject all notions of condemnation when you feel it in yourself. We could quote John 8:10, but that's the stoning of the woman caught in adultery, and Jesus writes in the sand about, well, he doesn't say what he's writing, he surmises what he might have wrote. And as he writes, all the people leave, and Jesus says to the woman, where are your accusers? Has no one condemned you? And then the woman says, no, there's no one left. And Jesus says back to her, neither do I condemn you. And so if we would like to hold those verses, right? Jesus doesn't condemn us, God doesn't condemn us. But it's not quite that simple, because if we are standing outside of Jesus' payment for our sin, we are condemned. Sometimes to have a negative thought about oneself is very correct and accurate. Now, we wouldn't, if you have your teenage girl and she's at the stage of life where they're very awkward and unbecoming, you might say, and she tells herself in the mirror, I look so ugly. She might be right. Now, the mother and the father probably should not agree with her and say, yeah, don't worry, this is about as bad as you'll ever look for your whole life, so suck it up. But it could be true. And the same way that when our hearts are condemning us in our sin, that is an appropriate perspective to have about our sin. If we are not covered by Jesus' blood, we don't need a self-help book to help us feel better about ourselves before God. Say, oh yeah, you're actually a really good person and you've got so much potential. No, actually, if you're outside of Jesus' payment for sin, you do need to claim his payment. You don't need just some feel-good music to make you feel better. So just to acknowledge, yes, it's true, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, as it clearly says. So then, having said that, let's go to 1 John 3. This is the when our hearts condemn us area. 1 John, the epistle John, not the gospel. Short book. Three 18 through 24. So I realized that I was quoting this verse to myself out of context, and only when I found it and read the surrounding passage that okay, this is John is not talking about what I'm talking about today. I want to acknowledge that fact. So I'll start in 18. 1 John 3:18. Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. This then is how we know that we belong to the truth and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence. Whenever our hearts condemn us, for God is greater than our hearts, and he knows everything. Dear friends, if our hearts do not condemn us, we have confidence before God and receive from him anything we ask, because we obey his commands and do what pleases him. And this is his command, to believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and to love one another as he commands us. Those who obey his commands live in him, and he in them. And this is how we know that he lives in us. We know it by the Spirit he gave us. So kind of ironic, actually. I chosen this topic, my sermon, before I knew what Sunday school lesson was about. I studied that after this, and it's going to overlap quite a bit here. But anyway, so this passage is more about the confirmation of salvation. If we believe, if we're questioning whether or not we're saved. And it's an interesting passage because most of these verses I just read, from 18 through 24, most of them are very positive speaking, saying positive things about the state of our salvation. So basically, how can you know you're saved? That's kind of the question. How can you be sure that you're saved? And so in 18, John says, well, dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. This is how we know that we belong to the truth, and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence. So when you're living your life pretty good, feeling like you're kind of checking the boxes before God, you're living in truth, you're showing love with your actions and with your tongue, you feel at peace with your salvation. And then, I'm going to skip 20. In 21, again, it's quite positive. Dear friends, if our hearts do not condemn us, we have confidence before God. And we receive from him anything we ask because we obey his commands. That's sounding pretty good. Yeah, you're saved, you're a Christian, you have confidence before God, you obey what he says to do, you do it without hesitation, and it all goes well. Do what pleases God. And again, 23, and this is his command, to believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and to love one another as he commands us. That's a positive thing. If you're doing that, you're probably not questioning your own salvation. 24, those who obey his commands live in him and he in them, and this is how we know that he lives in us. We know by the Spirit he gave us. So, very positive. But 20 is not a positive verse. In anything, it's the exact opposite. It's when our hearts condemn us. So I don't know what would cause your heart to condemn you, but I certainly have experienced personal sin where it's like, what is the matter with you? Can you not see the consequences of your sin? Do you think this is just a joke? Do you think your salvation Christian walk is meaningless and we're going to just have a little foray into sin for a while here? Pretend like nothing. Like those are kind of the condemning thoughts that my own heart would preach to myself. And in those times, that's where you would question your salvation. That's where you would ask yourself, like, is this even legitimate at all, or am I just playing a game? And now for these few hours here, or this weeks, or whatever the time frame is that you're operating with, it's actually all joke. And you're actually not saved. This is all just for fun or for not fun. So in those moments of self-condemnation, that's what he's referencing here. Our own sin contaminates our perception of everything in our existence. Our view of our marriage, our view of our material things, our view of God, our view of existence itself, and last but not least, our faith itself. If we're in sin, and our sin will warp how we see our faith. And faith being, I mean, you know the verse, we are saved by grace through faith. And the faith is what we kind of claim. We have faith. And God gives us faith. It's like the ribbon or the seal of our salvation. And sin can undermine the completeness of that view of God's saving work. We will see God's work saving our hearts differently when we are in sin. And so John is saying here in verse verse 20, God is not looking at our hearts to decide if we are saved or not. In verse 20, it's explicitly disregarded. Whenever our hearts condemn us, for God is greater than our hearts, and He knows everything. So even though sometimes we might feel like we are condemning ourselves, God is not consulting with our heart. Be like, oh, how's Andrew doing today? Oh, not very good. Okay, thanks for the update. I won't be relating to him anymore today. That's not how it goes. Our heart is fickle. Our heart is subject to error. Our salvation is not indicated by what our heart is feeling in that moment. God is greater than our heart. He knows everything. It's a striking thing, I'm sure you have seen great comfort when He talks to people, and some people say they're good. I don't need Jesus, I'm already good enough. But some people will say, I could never be saved. I've done too many bad things. And it comes off as if God is unaware of what we've done, and we have this little secret treasure trove of sins that we've committed. And if God ever found out what all the bad stuff I've done, he would probably give up on me. He's not quite strong enough to deal with that kind of sin that I've done. And so that is a warped mentality, to imagine that God asks for our resume, and we list all the good and all the bad things we've done, and then He decides if He wants to hire us on. That's not how this works. God is saying no resume required. Come as you are. God already knows everything there is to know about you, good and bad, and He's ready to hire you on. He's ready for you to come to Him. So when I was studying this, I kind of stumbled across. Okay, we're going to do a sword drill. I don't know where it is. So help me find it. It's in John, and I'm looking for the passage where they're having breakfast on the Sea of Galilee. So it's late in the Gospel. 21. Well, I had a head start, it's not fair. John 21, the Gospel now. We're going to the Gospel. This kind of struck me because lots of times in movies or in stories, you'll get a flashback, and you'll see a story in the moment, and then the movie plot will jump backwards in time. And I don't know this, of course, but I wonder if, so here we were in the Epistle of John, so I don't know if he wrote that on Patmos or where, but he's probably an old man writing the Epistle. Now we've jumped to the Gospel of John. So now we're doing kind of a flashback. So who knows how old John is? Some people will say teenager maybe, like maybe he's 18. So we jumped from the first passage of when our hearts condemn us, God is greater than our hearts. The old man writing that, and now we're going to jump to when John is, we'll say 18 or 17, okay? So that's when you're imagining this movie, you've got the old man saying that, and now we're going to jump back when he's a kid. And John is going to witness a scene here. And so I think I'll just read the whole thing. John 21, 15. When they finished eating, John said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. I'll stop right there. So, we've heard that passage 1,000 times. The breakfast and proof that Jesus was a man because he made fish for breakfast. And so here they are eating this fish for breakfast. was talking to Peter, and there's been many sermons on this, course, hundreds. I have never noticed what Peter offered as proof that he loves Jesus. I'll bet you we could all tell the story of the first time our spouse told us that they loved us. And I bet you could all think of the first time you told your spouse you loved them. I don't know, but I bet that's a striking enough event in your life that you could pull it up. There's this movie called The Beautiful Mind. It's called John Nash. He's this genius mathematician, but like probably autistic in some sense of the word. Very special. So he falls in love with this one of his students, actually, girl, and so they're having a picnic one day, and he asks her, "Is there any kind of empirical proof you can offer that you love me?" He was looking for something like concrete, just as concrete as 1 plus 1. And the girl knew her audience well, and so she didn't gush at him and tell him all the wonderful things about him that she liked and offer evidences. Well, I gave you flowers last week. You must know I love you. She didn't do any of that. She just said to him, "How big is the universe?" And John Nash, that's right down his alley. He said, "Well, it's limitless. It's infinite." And she said, "How do you know?" And he says, "Well, we don't actually know. All the evidence that we have just leads us to this conclusion that it's limitless." And so she said, "Well, there you go." And so she didn't offer him anything concrete except all the evidence that's available would lead you to think that this woman did in fact love John Nash, so that was good enough for him. When Jesus is asking Peter, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter does not offer any evidence himself. And I don't, that'd be a curious thing, like, if we've ever been asked, "Do you love me?" like by our significant other or by anyone, we would be inclined to try to prove it. Well, yes, of course I love you. And then we would say, "I have something. I wrote a poem for you. Therefore, it's definitive proof that I love you." I had a funny story coming to my mouth about there. I will anyway. Why not? So Aunt Brenda was her and Jody were at a wedding or something, and somebody had wrote a song for either the bride wrote a song for the groom or something like that, and it was a very sweet moment. And when they got home, I happened to be there, and Brenda said to Jody, I would like it if you would write me a song and sing it for me. And I thought that was quite hilarious. Little Jody's going to write a song and sing it for Brenda, maybe in front of the crew as we eat supper. So Brenda was looking for proof. Peter didn't offer any proof. He only offered one thing. He said, "You know I love you." That was it. Jesus, you know I love you. And then Jesus asked him again. Peter says, "You know I love you." And then the third time, finally he's like, "Jesus, you know everything. You know I love you." Now, I don't know what Peter's heart was saying to himself in that moment. But I know what my heart would have been saying after I committed, after I denied Christ 3 times. I mean, it says he went away and wept bitterly. I know what my heart was saying. We know what Judas's heart said. It condemned him so much that he went and hung himself. That was the condemnation he felt. And who knows exactly where Peter was at with Jesus here? Because he had seen Jesus before already. But I'm going to bet that Peter was not feeling very secure with his love of Jesus at that moment. I would. If I denied Jesus and here we are sitting on the beach and we're having breakfast together, and Jesus asked you, do you love me? I would be inclined to think, I don't know if I do. I just denied you when I was faced with my own death, and so I don't know. But Jesus, Peter didn't. He didn't go there. He claimed Jesus' knowledge of his own love of Jesus, which is kind of a weird thing. But to me, what it means is that Peter was not claiming this confidence in his own perception of his own faith. He wasn't saying, oh yeah, I'm feeling on fire for Jesus today. I know I'm saved. I know I love Jesus. He said, no, you know I love you. You know all things. And Jesus did. And in the next verse, it talks about, I tell you the truth, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. When you were old, you would stretch out your hands. Someone else would dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. And so Jesus knew Peter. Jesus knew his whole life and what it was going to hold. Jesus knew Peter was going to refuse to be crucified right side up because he loved Jesus so much that he asked to be turned upside down and crucified. Jesus knew that, but Peter didn't. And so Jesus had this knowledge that was superior to Peter. And so here again, to me, it feels like almost the behind-the-scenes thing. Remember the epistle of John, and it's saying, when our hearts condemn us, God is greater than our hearts. He knows all things. And here we have the story behind that verse. As Peter's heart is condemning him, and John's sitting here witnessing this conversation. And Peter says, well, Jesus, you know I love you. Jesus says, do you love me? And Peter says, well, you know I love you. Because he wasn't quite holding it so strong, his own self. We will all experience self-condemnation. It is an appropriate response to sin, an acknowledgement of wrong. But we must not rest in the arrogance of this condemnation, that we have the ability and the authority and the power to condemn ourselves, but rather in the fact that Jesus did the work to pay for our sins, to seal us for eternity with His Spirit, to sanctify us and glorify us as He is committed to do. He is the author and the finisher of our faith. He will finish the good work that He has begun in us. So let us own and acknowledge our weakness and our failure as we stumble along our Christian walk, but never let go of Jesus' hand as He walks along to hold us up when we stumble. God doesn't condemn us. We shouldn't condemn ourselves. Thank you.
I think that was an amen, because I know that's what I felt in my spirit. Please stand with us as we sing the Nation's Prayer.
Jesus, I surrender all. coming out today.